I'm accepted. I'm not dominant or dominated in any pack. I'm invited, even though I've done what was needed to be invited. In other words, at certain times, there was a physical contact.
Although he grew up in and around Paris, Sylvain Macchi has always been fascinated by wild animals. Even in the heart of the city, this attraction drove him to seek out a special relationship, especially with predators like the wolf.
It wasn't allowed, but I went to feed the wolves in the Jardin des Plantes and in Vincennes Zoo. In fact, I'd get trays of bœuf bourguignon from the supermarkets that I'd cut into little pieces and feed them discreetly over the fence. And it was impressive because I could only go once a week, but when I arrived a week later, the wolves would recognize me.
His passion for wolves drove him to travel in search of his favorite animal. As luck would have it, he crossed paths with another wolf enthusiast, Gérard Menatori, founder of the Gévaudan Wolf Park. This site, located in the Lozère around 600 kilometers south of Paris, is home to more than 100 wolves in almost 50 acres.
I was fascinated because I met someone with a passion. He'd talk about wolves. He'd finish one visit and start another. He never stopped. We got on immediately. Who's this Chinese wolf then? What are you doing here, Boule? Audrey loves dogs. I'm more of a cat person. I have 2 cats at home. So I'm into cats, she's into dogs, and we're in the middle of wolves.
Since 1995, Sylvain Macchi has managed the Gévaudan Wolf Park. Intending to the well-being of his charges, he can count on the support of Audrey Pruka, who assists him in his daily monitoring of the wolf packs.
We'll introduce you. Petit Bison. This one's Nez Tordu, 8 years old. This is...
Mini Puce.
Mini Puce.
He's 1 year old. This is the dominant male.
The pack leader, Ota.
Oda, he's 7 years old. They don't react the same, depending on whether it's me or him.
Because I'm closer to 85 kilos than her, and I'm 1 meter 83. Hey, height and weight counts.
Yet some of the more timid wolves are more confident if I'm around.
This is my big Gégé, a big Mongolian wolf, an old Omega wolf who was badly injured.
The region that is home to the Wolf Park is marked by the story of the Beast of Gevaudan, which, between 1764 and 1767, killed 100 women and children. According to popular belief, it was an enormous wolf. But Sylvain Macchi supports Gérard Menatori's theory that the beast was a hyena raised by a man, as attacking humans is not among the wolf's traits.
When the founder, Gérard Menatori, had the idea of creating this site in 1985, the important thing to him was to show you wolves, but to try to give you a glimpse of what they're really like. We try to gradually change people's mentalities so that in France, we become ready to accept its natural return.
The wolf's bad reputation was the reason why it was eradicated from France between 1920 and 1940. Canada also saw its wolf hunting period, but as populations were more plentiful, numbers were more easily replenished. In France, it wasn't until 1992 that we saw the return of the wolf, mainly in the Alpes-Maritimes departement.
When the first wolves arrived in France in the early 1990s, the World Wildlife Fund carried out a survey in 1995. Back then, 79% of people supported the return of the wolf. But the second question was, would you agree to wolves being returned to your department? They didn't want it. They were fine with wolves in France, but not here, at the neighbors or 3 departments away if possible.
In France, there are 2 clear-cut sides, pro-wolf and anti-wolf. There's an awful lot of conflict, tension, and passion involved, so we try to steer a clear course between these 2 trends and reconcile them both.
There are around 550 wolves in France, which is few compared to other countries in Europe and North America. Despite their low numbers, living together is problematic. Concerned with the conservation of large predators, Sylvain Macchi is a member of the Association Favour, which has devised a shepherd support program called Pastor Loup.
In fact, we look to place eco-volunteers with professionals during the summer. These are volunteers from all backgrounds, all ages, who stay close to the herds for protection, to support rather than replace the shepherds and assistant shepherds.
The biggest drawback is psychological. It's convincing rural people to agree to share their space with large predators.
To coexist in harmony with large predators, one should know their habits. Sylvain Macchi is often called upon to share his knowledge of wolves. Soon he will travel to Haute-Savoie to train eco-volunteers on the Pastoral Loup program.
These are my babies. Have an extra handful of food.
Every day, Sylvain visits the wolves to check on their health. This special relationship means that the wolves accept his presence within the pack. However, some young wolves do not hesitate to test his hierarchy in the group. Sylvain must always be on his guard. The slightest mistake could have serious consequences.
This is a powerful male in front of you. The wolf will test you with a charge. He'll try to express his discontent, so he'll try to bite you. It's not a lethal attack, which is important because if the wolf wanted to kill you, you wouldn't have a chance unarmed. He just came to smell. The first time, no, he didn't react like that. That's why I tested him. The first time I held out my hand, he tried to grab it. He'll charge you. His jaws are his only weapon, so he runs at you and tries to grab you, under the knee, for instance. You must avoid being grabbed. You're a pain, you're a pain. That's why I'm watching you. This can be a danger because if he grabs me and pulls and I fall, and 3 or 4 of them are excited, well, I'm in big trouble.
Passionate about wolves, Sylvain Macchi has traveled all over the world in search of one of the most mythical animals on the planet. Accompanied by Audrey Pruka, he's been as far as Norway, Poland, the Canadian Rockies, and Wyoming to track the wolf in its natural habitat. He has brought back precious knowledge of their habits from these trips.
This clearing in front of us serves as a recreation area. All the packs can meet up here without there being a conflict. and it's mainly the zone where we hand out the meat.
Sylvain comes to feed the wolves 3 times a week. During the summer, a wolf can consume 12 kilos of meat per week and up to 15 kilos during the winter. Sylvain and Audrey take advantage of the wolves' feeding to keep a close eye on the activities of another pack.
I think they were nearby.
Spring is an important period. It's the time when the dominant female gives birth.
Can you hear him coming?
I have to know how many young there will be in the dens and where they are so I can intervene quickly if need be. Anyway, we have to capture the wolf cubs in 3 or 4 weeks' time to identify, worm, and vaccinate them. They introduced the babies. They can't be far because they're all around us. One growled a little earlier. I wonder if they're not at the den.
I saw them just here earlier.
Approaching the den is somewhat dangerous, as the female could attack to protect her young.
I'll just check if I can see any young in there by crouching down with a torch. You cover me. She's getting upset, and rightly so, because one of her cubs is in there.
Usually in a pack, only the alpha pair, the she-wolf and the dominant wolf, reproduce. These two prevent other wolves from reproducing. But this year, an unexpected event has disturbed the balance of power in the pack.
We lost the dominant male at the start of the year, in February, so the wolves grew lax, and in the end, we had 2 litters. 2 on one side and 3 on the other.
The fact that there are exceptionally 2 litters creates competition between the 2 females and tension within the pack. Sylvain is worried by the consequences of this unusual situation for the 5 cubs born in these 2 litters.
There's a strong rivalry between these 2 females, and we're still not sure that the 5 will survive.
A few hundred kilometers away, in the French Alps in Haute-Savoie, a wolf has been shot. He had attacked a shepherd's flock. This sad news worries Sylvain Macchi and particularly affects Jean-Luc Borelli and his team of eco-volunteers.
In Europe, the wolf is strictly protected, but if he seriously interferes with human activities, we have the right to eliminate certain individuals. And that is what happened.
The heart of the controversy lies in the Northern Alps, mainly in Haute-Savoie, because there a hunter deliberately killed a wolf. His friends set up an association, Live Without Wolves. And you even have the prefect ordering another wolf to be killed. It was a female, pregnant with 6 fetuses.
Because of this situation, the Association Favour has cancelled the meeting between Sylvain and the eco-volunteers until tensions have dissipated.
We're in the most difficult period now. It really is pro-wolf, anti-wolf, with one side trying to eradicate it and the other waging war against them. So it's a transition period which is very difficult. It will last another few months at least.
The return of the wolf in France began in 1992. Wolves from Italy crossed the border to settle in Mercantour National Park. Although this is a well-documented fact, several people still believe that these wolves have escaped from captivity or had been deliberately released by friends of the wolf. In 2004, a law was passed requiring all captive wolves to be fitted with an identification microchip.
In 2004, no wolves were identified, so we had to capture the 130 wolves we had on the site. If you want to capture an adult for tattooing, you have to put it to sleep. You can do that to 1 or 2 wolves today and tomorrow, but after that, when they see you coming with a hypodermic rifle, they'll all disappear. They'll be stressed out, and some will jump up against the fences.
Since that time, the relationship between Sylvain and the wolves changed. They no longer respond to his calls.
In fact, I'd sit down and get them excited by banging on the ground. That would excite them, and we'd have 40 wolves charging towards us. It was awesome, fantastic. But then shooting at them for 2 years cooled their ardor and made them back off.
The chip system will still have demonstrated that none of the wolves killed or found at liberty in France were wolves raised in captivity. The wolf cubs are now 5 weeks old enough to be vaccinated, wormed, and identified by an electronic chip. But Sylvain would rather wait. The climate within the pack is still extremely tense. One of the 5 cubs didn't survive the tension.
The cubs were so scared that they remained hidden away at the bottom of the dens. This explains why they're not as big as 5-week-old cubs should be, and also explains why we couldn't intervene before.
To avoid further tensions within the group, Sylvain decides to wait a while. But he wonders whether the females will decide to make peace before the other cubs' lives are in danger. Gradually, the tensions have eased between the pro-wolf and the anti-wolf groups. Though it's still a long way from harmony, Sylvain lives in hope. Some shepherds, like Gilbert de Bon, have decided to adapt to the return of the wolf.
Things were heated. You couldn't wear a wolf badge on your car for fear of someone breaking your windscreen. Things have calmed down a bit. Lots more breeders are taking measures or working with pastoral loups.
From the moment when we're all together for the same cause, building a park, introducing dogs or shepherds, things go much better. There's no more pro-wolf or anti-wolf controversy. We're working together towards the same goal, protecting the herds.
Slowly but surely, the men manage to find common ground. Sylvain hopes that the 2 she-wolves will do the same. As he gets close to the dens, good news awaits. The cubs are exploring their surroundings in the company of the two females and the whole pack.
The cubs' emergence from their dens will allow the group to be reunited. When there are tensions, even with the omega wolves, the whipping boys, you realize that these wolves will close ranks, and the whole pack will see to training the young. If the cubs are hungry, they won't hesitate to approach an adult, and the adults will go as far as regurgitating food for the youngsters.
For Sylvain Macchi, the wolf is a fascinating creature, and he strives to raise awareness about it. Despite the obstacles placed in his path, his dearest wish is that humanity may one day learn to coexist with the large predators.
Our numbers are constantly growing, so obviously that leaves less and less room for the animals. When people say to me, "Oh, but what use are wolves anyway," etc., I honestly get to a point where I say to them, "Don't worry. In another 2,000 years, there'll be no wolves. There'll only be human beings. The only animals left will be in zoos." We have to stop thinking we're the only ones living on this planet, and animals can only live here if we say so. We have to leave their territory to them. It's the only way they'll survive.